Hello. In this question, we are told a hall can accommodate 600 chairs arranged in rows. Each row has the same number of chairs. The chairs are rearranged such that the number of rows are increased by 5, but the number of chairs per row is decreased by 6. And part A of the question reads, find the original number of rows in the hall. So we are just going to start off with part A, and we need to realize we have a before and an after situation, before the rearrangement and afterwards. And we are told that after the rearrangement, the number of rows is increased by 5 and the number of chairs per row decreases by 6. What remains constant, however, is the number of chairs. We only have 600 chairs before and afterwards. Okay, let's start walking through the solution. So here is my depiction of my understanding. So afterwards, we have more rows since we are told the number of rows increases by 5. So that's why you see in my diagrams, afterwards, I have more rows than before. Now, we need to figure out a couple of things. First, we need to figure out the number of rows before and afterwards, or rather, a way to express them. We also need to figure out the number of chairs per row before and afterwards. Remember, the number of chairs in both situations remains the same. It's still 600. Okay, so can we know the number of rows before? Nope. So we are just going to assume that the number of rows before was x. We go back to the question. We are told the number of rows increases by 5 after the rearrangement. So this means that the number of rows afterwards is going to be the original number of rows, x plus 5. Okay, now let's talk about the chairs per row. How do you get the chairs per row? We go back to the question. We are told each row has the same number of chairs. So this means that to get the chairs per row, I only need to do the total number of chairs divided by the number of rows. So this means that before, to get the chairs per row, we are going to do the total number of chairs, which is 600, divided by the number of rows, which is x. What about afterwards? We do the same thing. So we take the total number of chairs, 600, divided by the number of rows, which is x plus 5. This is afterwards. Okay, so looks like we have something good here. Now let's go back to the question. We are told after the rearrangement, the number of chairs per row is decreased by 6. So this means that if I take the original number of chairs per row, 600 over x, and I decrease it by 6. So if I take the original number of chairs and I decrease it by 6, I should be able to get, the number of chairs per row, I should be able to get the number of chairs per row afterwards, which is 600 over x plus 5. So we have this equation, and remember part A was asking to find the original number of rows in the hall. So in our case, that is just finding the value of x. Let's start working through this. So we have this x in the denominator. So to remove it, we are going to multiply through by that x. So we will multiply every factor in the equation by x. So we say times x, then here times x, and then on this other side times x. So by x, this is going to be 1, by x 1. So we are left with 600, and then minus 6 times x, that's going to be minus 6x, and this is equals to 600 times x, that's going to be 600x over x plus 5. Okay, now again, we have this x plus 5 in the denominator. To get rid of it, we multiply each term of the equation by x plus 5. So we are going to say times x plus 5 times x plus 5, and then this other one times x plus 5. So what do we have? This becomes 600 times x plus 5, and then we have minus 6x times x plus 5, and all that is equals to, by x plus 5, 1, by x plus 5, 1. All that is equals to 600x. Let's open the brackets. So 600 times x, that's going to give us 600x, and then 600 times 5, that is going to give us 3000. Then negative 6x times x will give us negative 6x squared, and then negative 6x times 5 will give us minus 30x, and all this is equals to 600x. Okay, so let's take this 600 from the right side and bring it over to the left. So now on the left, we are going to have this 600x that was already there, and then now when the one on the right comes to the left, it becomes negative. So minus the 600x that we have brought to the left, and then we have plus 3000, and then we have minus 6x squared, then we have minus 30x, and all this is equals to now 0. So when you have plus 600x minus 600x, that's just 0. So we can forget about these two terms. So our equation now becomes 3000 minus 6x squared minus 30x, and you're saying this is equals to 0. Now, something you need to note is that this is a quadratic equation. And remember that the standard form of a quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c is equals to 0. So let's rewrite ours in that form. So in our case, we are going to start with the x squared. So we have negative 6x squared. Then we go to the x term. So we have minus 30x. And then we have plus the c term, 3000 in our case. And all this is equals to 0. Now, notice that this first term, negative 6x squared, is divisible by 6. So is this second term of negative 30x and this c term of 3000. So what we are going to do, since this is an equation, we are going to divide through by that 6 so that we get a simplified version. So we are going to say divide by 6. Actually, yeah, let's just go divide by 6, divide by 6, divide by 6, divide by 6. So by 6, this is 1. By 6 here, we are going to be left with negative x squared. So the first term, negative x squared. By 6, this is 1. By 6 here, we'll be left with negative 5x. So minus 5x. And then by 6, this is 1. By 6, this is going to give us 500. So plus 500, and all this is equals to 0, since 0 divided by 6 is 0. So we have our equation here, and the easiest way to solve this one, we are just going to use the factorization method of solving quadratic equations. I always tell you, when using the factorization method, what you are doing is you are rewriting this middle term, and you are rewriting it to be composed of two terms. The conditions for the two terms are, when the two terms are multiplied, they should give you your x squared term times your c term. So in this case, they should be able to give us negative 500x squared. And so that's the first condition for the two terms. Now, the second condition is that when the two terms are added, they should be able to give us the middle term. So in this case, two such terms are going to be when we take 25x and we multiply this by 20x, and the negative will be on the 25x, so that when we take negative 25x times 20x, we get negative 500x squared. And when we take negative 25x plus 20x, we are going to get this middle term, which is negative 5x. So our middle term now becomes negative 25x plus 20x, and then at the start we have this negative x squared, and to the right we have plus 500, and all this is equals to 0. At this point, we are going to take these terms in pairs. The first pair is going to be this. The second pair is going to be this. Note that I have included the plus in the second pair, the plus 20x. It's always important, just in case it's a negative. The signs are very important. Don't leave them out. So, in the first pair, what is the common factor? The common factor here is negative x. So we are going to factor out that negative x from the first pair. So negative x squared divided by negative x will leave us with x. And then negative 25x divided by negative x, that is going to leave us with plus 25. Let's talk about the second pair. What is the common factor? Here, the common factor is positive 20, or plus 20. So we factor that out. 20x divided by 20, that's going to leave us with x. And then 500 divided by 20, that's going to leave us with positive 25. And all this is equals to 0. Okay, now notice something. In this first term, we have this x plus 25 expression, and we also have it in the second term. So it is the common factor between the two terms. So we factor it out. So we factor out x plus 25. And what do we remain with? So this first expression divided by x plus 25 will leave us with negative x. And then this second expression divided by x plus 25, that's going to leave us with plus 20. And we are saying this is equals to 0. Now at this point, you have two terms which when multiplied give you a product of 0. This means that either one of the terms is 0 or both of them are 0. So this means that either x plus 25 is equals to 0 or negative x plus 20 is equals to 0. So for this first case, let's take the 25 to the right side. And then for this second case, we are going to take the x to the right side because it's easier that way. So when you take, for the first case, when you take when you take the 25 to the right, on the left, we remain with x is equals to 0 minus 25 gives us negative 25. And on this second case, this means that on the left, we are going to remain with 20 is equals to, then when the negative x goes to the right, it becomes positive, so x. So this means that either x is equals to negative 25 or x is equals to 20. Now, let's go back to what was our value for x. Let me scroll sideways. X was the number of rows, the original number of rows before the rearrangement. So we go back to our answers. We got negative 25 and 20. But then the number of rows cannot be negative, right? So let's write that. So this, we write number of rows cannot be negative. Therefore, this means that our value for x is 20. Okay, we scroll again upwards. So this means we have the value of x now. What was the question asking? The question was asking, find the original number of rows in the whole, or in our case, that is x. So indeed, that is the answer for the first part. So for that first part, the answer is 20. So we are just going to say 20 rows. So that's the answer for the first part. Now let's take a look at part B. Part B reads, after the rearrangement, 450 people were seated in the hall, leaving the same number of empty chairs in each row. Calculate the number of empty chairs per row. So we have a total number of people, which is 450. All of these people are in the hall, and they are seated in the hall, leaving the same number of empty chairs in each row. This means that each row held the same number of people, right? So we can start writing what we know. So we know that the total people are 450. But do we know the number of people per row? Nope. So we write here people per row, and so the number of people per row, we're just going to assume this is like a variable. It's an unknown like y, right? Okay, now let's go back to the question. After the rearrangement, 450 people were seated in the hall, leaving the same number of empty chairs in each row. Calculate the number of empty chairs per row. Okay, so we have the total number of people, and then we have the people per row. How do we get the number of rows, right? So in this case, we have the total number of people, and then we have the people per row. But how do we get the number of rows? So we are saying the number of rows would be the same as doing the total number of people, which is 450, divided by the people per row. Actually, I could have just written that. Let me just write total people divided by people per row. Okay. So this, do we have the number of rows? Yes, this is after the rearrangement. Go back to the question. This is after the rearrangement. So we scroll upwards and we check after the rearrangement, what was the number of rows? The number of rows was x plus 5. So we go back. The number of rows would be x. Remember, our value for x was 20. So the number of rows would be x plus 5, which is 20 plus 5 is equals to the total people, which is 450, divided by the people per row. In our case, the people per row is an unknown, y. So this means that 20 plus 5, that's going to give us 25, is equals to 450 divided by y. Now to get rid of this y in the denominator, we multiply each term by that y. So times y times y. By y, this is 1. By y, this is 1. So on the right, we have 450. Then on the left, we have 25y. So to get the value of y, we divide both sides by 25. So divided by 25 and divide by 25. By 25, 1 by 25 here, we'll be left with y. And then I'm just going to do by 5, this is 5, by 5, this is 90, by 5, 1, by 5, this is 18. Okay, so this means that the value of y is 18. And y Y was the number of people per row. Okay, and we were told after the rearrangement, 450 people were seated in the hall, leaving the same number of empty chairs in each row. Now, do we know the number of chairs per row? We scroll upwards, and here we go. So afterwards, the chairs per row was 600 over x plus 5. So we scroll downwards again, and we are going to say chairs per row will be 600 over x plus 5. X plus 5, we've said that's 20 plus 5, 25. So I'm just going to do by 5, this is 5. By 5, this is 120. By 5, this is 1. By 5, this is 24. So this means that after the rearrangement, the number of chairs per row was 24. And now we have found that y, which is the people per row, is 18. So it means that they occupied 18 chairs in each row. And what was the question asking? Calculate the number of empty chairs per row. So empty chairs per row, empty chairs per row will be the chairs per row minus the number of people per row. So the chairs per row, that's 24, minus the people per row, we got that as y, which was 18. 24 minus 18 will give you 6. So the answer for part B would be, well, they had asked the number of empty chairs per row, so that would be 6 chairs. So the answer for part B would be 6 chairs were empty. So that's the answer, and this is the full solution. I'm really hoping you learned something from this video, and as always, thanks a lot for watching.